Now I'm just realizing when you said you sent out the recording, it's of me like butchering every question.
Which is fine. It's always cringy to watch yourself back on video, but
It really
always
is.
this will load. Okay. All right. So again, I cannot see you. So audible cues. Otherwise, I'm going to be like, what? But today we're going to go over Prep Test 81 Game 1. And this is a double sequencing game. So we're going to be ordering, but we're ordering like 2 groups at once. And when we do double sequencing or even triple sequencing, which is pretty rare, sometimes those rules interact with one another. So like our 2 groups are going to be connected. So some of the more easier ones, they allow you to kind of separate them sometimes. But in this case, we'll be looking at both of them at the same time, which can be a struggle for some students. So, okay, so we have I don't have my pen. There we go. What's that? Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so we have a news magazine is assigning photo essays to be featured in its first 5 monthly issues, 1 essay per issue. So basically, we have 5 spaces that we're working with. And it says 3 of the essays will have a rural theme and 2 will have urban themes. So we're going to have rural and we're going to have urban. And each essay will be assigned to a different one of 5 photographers. We either have F, G, H, J, or K, and then we have our conditions. So this is what I mean by it's a double sequencing. We first have to kind of, it's almost like we have to pair them up and then order them. So we're going to have to figure out which issue is a rural and an urban one, and then furthermore, figure out which photographer is doing which one. So as far as a setup goes, the way that we can do this is I'm going to have one line and I'm going to have it be, this is going to be, let me try. See, I don't know why I tried that because it wasn't working yesterday. So I don't know why I would expect it to work today. Let's do this. I'm going to move this over. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Scribble, scribble. Okay. Just going to go black. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have our 5 spots. One line is going to be figuring out if it's rural or urban. And our other line underneath it is going to be our photographers. So if you kind of struggle to remember who your photographers are, while we have it up here, sometimes it can be nice to actually list them out over here. So that way you know, like, my FGJ, my FGHJK variables are on my bottom line or whatever. This is just how I ordered them. It doesn't necessarily matter who's on top, who's on bottom. I just wrote it out that way because that's the way that it presented it to us. So yes. Do you have any questions about that?
No, that makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go through each rule and we're going to try and think about the different worlds that we can create from it or what we can do to eliminate that rule. And then we're going to eventually have all of our worlds. So first rule, pretty easy one, says the essay featured in the first issue must have a rural theme. What would you think we should do?
I would say like 1 and then put like U underneath for like showing that the first would be urban.
Did you say the first would
Oh, I'm
be?
sorry, rural.
Yeah, first one.
I was looking at the second question.
So are you saying like you would do something like, wait, say it again what you wanted to do?
I would put like the number one and then like U under for like abbreviations R for saying that it's rural.
Oh,
Sorry,
why did I
Maggie.
write you? So something like this?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know how accurate that would be.
Could you put it directly into your diagram?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's just telling me where to put one of my variables, and that is a really great way to eliminate the rule pretty easily because if it's just telling me where to place a variable, I'm just going to place it in my diagram. I'm not even going to worry about diagramming it out up here as like a regular rule because I'm just going to eventually put it in that first spot. I don't need to diagram it up here to remind myself to put it in this spot because I can just slip it right in there. It's going to do this. Okay. So we've used one of our R's, placed it in that first spot. That eliminates the first rule. Let's look at the second rule. It says K's essay must be featured in the essay immediately preceding the issue in which F's essay is featured. What would you do with this rule? What are your thoughts?
And F before K.
F before K.
It says Kim's essay must be featured in the issue immediately preceding.
Preceding means before. So
For so the opposite.
yeah. So a good way to think about it, because you're gonna see words like this in the test, not just in logic games, but like in LR. I can say that would probably be more common. Precedent. If we think about precedent in the legal sense, it's the preceding cases that follow. So K has to be immediately before F. If we box it in there, that's going to prevent it from us pulling K and F apart, and it's going to prevent anything else from going in between K and F.
Okay.
Any questions on that one?
No, I just have to remember because I've been doing a lot with proceeding, so I guess I'm just reading the question wrong.
Yeah, and that can cause you to get wrong answers too. So it's not
Mhm.
unusual or unheard of for them to use words like that. Um, it's just something that you'll have to get used to. It's a vocab thing. All right. With our third rule, it says F's essay cannot have the same type of theme as K's essay. What would you do with this rule?
So we know that either K will be R or U, and the other one has to be the opposite.
Yeah. So what would you do to like write out this rule?
I'll probably put KUFR. Oh, like if K is R, then F is U.
Okay, so like something like, oop, why did I write F? Come on. Okay, it's K is before F. So something like if U is paired with K, then we know that F is going to be with R. On the flip side, if we know that R is with K, oh gosh, this thing sucks. I've got to get rid of it after this class. We have K and F, and if we flip them, then we're going to have this. Right?
Yeah.
Good. Another shortcut that you could do to write that is you could literally just write U, like this first one that I have here, and I could put an arc over it to showcase that those two are going to flip. I could even box them in just to
Interchangeable.
remember that it's only the U and R that are flipping if I needed that reminder.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No, I guess I'm just trying to get used to diagramming what I'm trying to say in the way that I can read it.
Yeah, and there's no correct way to diagram a rule. The only thing that I want to make sure is that you understand that diagram correctly. So if I'm diagramming something,
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure you have the right interpretation of it. And while there's no correct way to write out the rule, there are more efficient ways to write out rules. So if I was dealing with this third rule that we were working on, this is certainly helpful, but it's also a little time consuming because I can just shorthand it into something like U and R flipping. So you can certainly write it out in
Okay.
any way that you want. There's just going to be some ways that are quicker and easier to understand.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No, makes sense.
Okay. So it was our third rule. What if I can do something like this? Our fourth rule says G's essay must be featured in the third issue. What would you do with that one?
I think that would be similar to the first rule, and then just put it into 3.
Yeah, just gonna plop it right in there. It's one less variable that I have to worry about. And my last rule says J's essay must have an urban theme. What would you do with this one?
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to reread G and figuring out why you put it in the photo rather than urban, but now I know because it wasn't rural or urban. I was just going back.
Yeah, so
Sorry, what was your question?
our photographers, these are the variables for our photographers, and then these are I guess you could say themes. Our themes
Okay,
are
yeah,
R or U, and then our photographers are going to go on that bottom line as whatever variables we decide.
got it.
Any other questions on that?
And then,
Okay. Are you still writing?
oh no, sorry, I'm
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So the last rule says J must have an urban theme. What do you do for that rule?
I would put J under urban, like JU, like to abbreviate it.
Yeah. Because if we know that J has to be urban, we can't switch them out with anything like that. And if we write it as U on top and J on bottom, it'll be a lot easier for us to mentally pick up this rule and place it because it's following the placement that we've already done. So like my R and U are on top. So if I write my R and U variables for my rules on top and my photographer people on bottom, it's a lot easier for me to pick it up and think about where J and U can go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Those are all the rules. And while we've got 2 of them directly in our diagram, we kind of have like 2 rules to deal with because this K and F rule number 2 and 3 are kind of the same thing in one. And then we have our JU rule. So given those 3 kind of 2 rules, which one do you think is the most restrictive or would create the least amount of worlds, least amount of possibilities that we can place them?
I would probably say the second rule.
Meaning the K and F rule?
Yes.
Yeah, because why would you say it's the K and F rule?
Because it's not giving like specifics. It's kind of just saying that the essay must be featured. Well, actually, the opposite. It is giving like specifics of where it should be.
Yeah, and if K and F have to go in that certain order, if we're looking at a block like that, blocks are really good starting pieces to build worlds because you can't pull them apart, you can't put anything in between them. And given our diagram, our current diagram, where could K and F go?
Sorry, I'm just rereading the question. I would say 2 and 3.
K and F?
I guess I'm reading the question wrong. I
Well,
mean, the rule.
think about, well, you're kind of going down the right path. K and F have to be in that block together, right? So they have to have 2 spots. You have to have 2 spots for them. Can't pull them apart or anything like that. But our K and F are part of our P variables. So they go on our bottom line. So if we have G in that third spot, K and F really can't go in 2 and 3 because there's G in that
Oh,
spot.
okay, yeah. I'm looking at because I'm looking at my paper. I do have them flipped. My P is on the top and my R and U is on the bottom.
Okay, I can
So I
fix.
can I'll just erase. No, you're fine. I'll just erase mine to match that. Now I understand the question more.
I'm gonna
Okay.
be honest, it would have taken me a couple seconds to get this thing to erase. This thing really
Yeah,
sucks.
that's fine. I just rewrote the whole thing underneath. Okay, so now
I
you're
would
asking
also
what
say it
is
really
K.
doesn't matter which way you go. It just helps when we are in sync. So when we refer to things together, like it makes sense. But like if you were
Yeah.
doing this on your own, by all means put the photographers on top.
Okay. I'm still kind of lost.
Okay. So we're looking at K and F, where we can put K and F, right?
Yeah.
K and F can't come apart. They have to be in that block. 2 spaces have to be reserved for them. If they're my photographers coming from my P group over here, that means that they have to go on this bottom line. And if I can't break this block apart, I have to find 2 spaces for K and F to go together.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if they go in the beginning or the end. I know that one has to precede the other.
Well, that's the whole point. Is it can go in the beginning or the end. It can go in 1 and 2, or it can go in 4 and 5. K and F can go in either of those spots. Is that what you mean by like you were confused by it?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you were asking specifically where on the P line do they go?
I meant more of like where could they go? I guess I should have said.
Okay.
Oh, this is
Okay.
goodness. But because we can put them in 2 different spots, that's why we're going to make 2 different worlds, because they can go in either one of those spots.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So we'll create our copy. And in one of the worlds, doesn't matter which one, I'm going to pick the first one. K and F are going to go in spot 1 and 2. And in the other world, world 2, K and F are going to go in spot 4 and 5. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
Yes. Yes, I understand now. I was a little confused, but now I get it.
Erase. Let me know when you're ready to move on.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. Black. Okay. Okay. Now we have 2 rules to go from. We have our U and J rule, and we have the other part of our K and F rule, the U and R flipping between one another, basically. So which rule do you want to start with?
The U and J rule, because in the first world, I see I can put J there. U under 4.
In this 4th spot?
Yes.
Where else could it go?
Oh, in the second world as well.
Well, it'll have to go in the second world. We'll have to apply it to both those worlds. But within this first world, does U and J have to go in that fourth spot?
Yes,
Why?
because that's what's available
What about my fifth
based
spot?
on the rule. But I thought it was fixed that it said that. Oh, okay. I'm looking at the number 4 on the side.
Oh, you thought it was a fourth spot. I wrote the 4 as in like fourth rule.
The 4th rule.
Yes.
Got it.
Actually, I don't even think it is the fourth rule. It's the fifth rule. So I messed that up.
Okay.
But yeah, this is like rules, variables, diagram.
Okay.
So now that that's clarified, does J and U have to go in that fourth spot?
No,
Where else could it go?
it can also go in 5.
Yeah. So we have two possibilities, J going in 4 or J going in 5. Because I have two possibilities, I'm going to split that and make that happen so I don't have to think about it anymore. And this is going to get hopefully still legible. Okay, so we're going to make our copy. And in 1, we're going to put J and U in that 4th spot. And in the other, we're going to put J and U in that 5th spot.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that it could also go in the second world. We have to place J in the second world, but where could it go in that second world down here?
In 2.
Yeah, it's the only spot it could go in, because if I put J in that first spot, R is taking place up on top, and it has to be U for it to abide by our rule. And we have R in that first spot for a reason. Reason being that it's a rule. So I can't change it. So in order for it to fit, it's got to go in that second spot. You good with that? Any questions?
Yes. Makes sense.
That's not white.
I just look up and then I see more erasing.
It's so annoying. Like, it has an eraser, but it doesn't work. I don't know if you can see it. Like, if I press the eraser, it just doesn't do anything.
Wow.
So I don't know what's up with that. Anyways, we're kind of good making way now. So now we only have that third rule to work with. R and U have to flip between K and F. They can't be the same. So given what we have right now, all 3 of the worlds we're going to have to look at individually. So we're going to have to look at the K and F on 1, the K and F on 3, the K and F on 2. But we have to make sure R and U are flipping between them. So in world number 1, what am I going to do?
In world number 1, K is already R, so F has to be U.
Easy.
And then in world number 2, oh, that's 3. Yeah, okay. So in world number 3, R is K, so F is U again. And then in number 2, R has, well, K doesn't have anything on there. So I can make a U and then R. Well, let me process.
We can do one of 2 things. So we can either make a separate world, because R and U are going to flip-flop. There's 2 options. Either K has R or K has U. Same thing with F.
Mhm.
Or we can do a shortcut and do something like this. R and U are flipping. We have to select one. If I select R and 4, I have to select U and 5. Do you have a preference?
No.
Okay. We'll keep the shortcut for now, and then if we need to, we'll break it off.
Okay. I'm just filling in my chart.
It's fine because I'm going to erase. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Were you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we went through all of the rules, but we still have some blank spots, and we still have some variables that we haven't even touched on. So we're going to go through all of the worlds, and we're going to fill in those blank spots. So in my first world, what blank spots can you fill in? Which ones jump out at you?
Well, we know from the rules that there's only 2 urbans, so I would say the rest are R on the top.
Yeah, whoa. Didn't mean to do that.
It's brolic.
It took so much. So unnecessary. Drag that back down. Okay, so you said the rest are going to be R's, which is right. What else can you fill in?
And then the missing letter, which is H on the bottom.
Yeah.
One of my rules are messed up. I copied something wrong. Okay. I'll just go over your screen.
I don't care which world we dive into next, but what is missing? What can you
Okay.
fill in?
I'm gonna go to world 3, and we're also missing the H and the P, and there's 2 U's and 2 R's.
Yeah.
Then in world 2, we are missing an H. And then since these flip flop on the top, I'm stuck.
That's fair. So they're flip-flopping, right? One of them's going to have to be a U, one of them's going to have to be an R. So we're pulling those variables. So same thing kind of happens. We already have a U here, and one of these is going to end up being a U. So that takes out both of our U's. Same thing happens. You're left with an R.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. R. Okay. I guess it's the whole not knowing what one it can be just makes me just pause. Like, I don't know. Instead of
Yes.
thinking
And
which one can this one have to be.
yeah, and even if you, oh, I can shrink it. Nice. Even if you are uncertain or if that's going to like cause you to stop or hesitate, you can break it into that second world. So then you do know one of them's going to have U in the 4th spot, one of them's going to have R in the 4th spot, and they're going to flip. So,
Okay.
yes.
Got it.
Any questions on the setup?
No, finally made it through.
We made it through to the other side, which means we get to start on our questions. So our first question is a list question, which I'm sure you've gone over and seen before, but a list question is usually the first question on your game. It's going to ask you what is one, like an acceptable order of whatever our scenario is saying. So given that we've made our worlds, I still recommend not using your worlds for this question and only going by the rules and seeing what's violating those rules. So, for example, we're looking at the assignment of the photographers. So we're looking at that bottom row. We're thinking only about our photographers. One of the rules that pops out is G has to be the third one. If I notice that one of these answer choices does not have G in that third spot, it's violating my rule. It can't be a list of my variables. So it would eliminate B. We're going to do the same thing for all the others. So I'm going to give you like a minute or so to attempt it and see if you can come up with an answer or if you get stuck between two.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have an answer.
Okay, what do we
I
like?
think it's E.
We like E. Okay, so let's go through A, C, and D just to eliminate them. K and F have to be before each other. K has to come before F immediately. Eliminates A, they're not together. Eliminates C, they're not together. But D and E are fine because they're together and K is before it. You can't really decide between the two because the other rules talk about R and U. So this is where I would say I'm going to have to look at my diagram and see what we have, and I'm going to match them up.
Yeah, that's what I was stuck at. I was like, because since the rest of the rules go off of the other one, I was trying to see which one of the rules I see that repeat in the world.
Yeah, and when it comes to the point where like you can't distinguish between two, especially in these double sequencing and triple sequencing games, the order on top usually affects the order on bottom. And so when the rules are talking about them individually, it's hard to see the relationship between them. And that's why it's nice to have your worlds, because then I can just match them up, which for E, we do have that happening in the first world. So this would become our answer choice. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at the first world. Let's see. Because I guessed out of those two. Because
So,
based off of the worlds, I was looking and yeah.
so in the first world, we have K, F, G, J, H, which is answer choice E. But for D, I don't have a world that starts with J as number one. And if we think about our rules,
Yeah,
that
some
kind of makes sense because J has to be urban. And if the first one has to be rural, there's no way that J could be number one.
okay, that's the way to think about it. Because then I just started thinking, what if there's another world that I have to create, and there's a way that it could be instead of going back to my rules and reading
That's
and like,
fair.
okay, that can't go there.
Yeah, that's fair. It's one of those, it's an advanced way of looking at the game, is seeing the, in my opinion, it's an advanced way of doing it, but like seeing the connections between the rules, and that definitely takes some time. So if J is urban and 1 is rural, J can't be 1. That's going to eliminate D.
Okay,
Worst case, if you don't feel comfortable
I
with
think that.
it or confident in it, generally, or I shouldn't say generally, there's always one correct answer. So if you can see E in your diagram, that's probably going to be the correct answer. But you can also test it out and see if there's any way that you could put J in 1 and the rest of the variables following
Mhm.
it.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. Number 2, which one of the following could be true? I'm going to give it like a couple of seconds to go over this one, and then let me know when you have an answer.
You said a couple seconds. It's gonna take me like a minute to read.
Give you like a minute, minute and a half.
Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, so I think the answer is B.
B. G is immediately preceding H. Yeah, you're right. Because that happens in our third world. G is immediately preceding H. Everything else doesn't happen. F immediately preceding J. I don't have a world where that's happening. H preceding K. Don't have a world where that's happening. J before K. Don't have a world where that's happening. K before G. Don't have a world where that is happening. So yes, our answer choice is going to be B. Any
I don't think I
questions?
would have been that confident if I did the world myself, because that's what I usually trip up on, making sure that my worlds are correct. But I know since we did it together, I can just go off of that.
Yeah, part of building that confidence is trusting yourself. So doing it more and more, and the more you do it and the more you get them correct, you're going to start to build confidence in yourself because you are getting them correct. It's just a thing that you have to build up. The other way to check it out is if you do have one correct answer and you hate all the other ones, it's probably the correct answer. You should start to question yourself if you hate all of them or if you have more than one correct answer. So if I like A, B, and C, I've missed something somewhere. I need to look at that. But if I have one answer, that's like 99% going to be my answer. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Number 3. If the essay featured in the 4th issue has an urban theme, then any of the following could be true except. So give you like a minute to do this one. Any ideas? Like any answer choices?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm still trying out the last one. I'm looking at E. Because I'm trying to go off of my worlds because I see in the world where 2, where 4 can be you. So I'm using it there. But then I see some of the photographers is like different place based off of what the answer choice is giving.
What do you mean?
Sorry, my headphones just died. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
What do
okay.
you mean by the different placement?
So I was looking at the second B. It says Fetter's essay is featured in the fifth. So that works for the second world. H essay is featured in the fourth. H is not in the fourth. K is there. And A also is incorrect because F is not in the second, it's in the fifth. And then, yeah, so H is not in the fifth, and then J is not in the fourth. So I got stuck between D and E because it doesn't show in the world. I know it's asking for which one is could be true except for those. So the answer that's wrong. But I have 2 that aren't wrong. So
Is this the only world that we can use? Is it the
no,
only world where the fourth one is an urban? I think you
no.
said no.
Also the first world too.
Yeah, so when we look at the question, the answer choices, we have to refer to both of those worlds. So even though H is not the fifth in the second world, it is in the
It is
fifth
in
in
the
this
first
first
world.
world.
Yeah.
So it can be true that H is in that fifth one. But like you said, we're looking for the exception. So this actually makes it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing
And
with
J.
J. What do
Mm-hmm.
you think?
Yeah, J can go in the fourth, so it makes it wrong.
What
And then
about
F
F
can
being
go.
in the
Yeah, it can go in the second one in the first world, so B would be the answer. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wait,
can?
hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It can go. So,
So it makes it wrong because we're looking for
yeah,
that exception. So it makes C our answer because H in the fourth issue doesn't happen in either of those worlds. When it's the urban, I don't even know, urban theme for 4, I can't have H with it.
got it.
Any questions about that one?
No, I just need to know could be true except it's asking for all the answers are gonna be right and you're looking for the one that, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. And that goes the same for like must be true or cannot be true. Your
Mhm.
wrong answers are the ones that can happen, and the correct answer is the one that can't happen. So you kind of are like flipping it.
Got it.
Okay, number 4. Whew. What has to be true?
Spoken into existence. And that's the one thing that I like about the LSAT because most of the questions are the same, so you know what to expect. It's just like how to get there.
Yeah. Especially our must be true and could be trues. Those happen so often.
Mhm. Okay. I'm gonna go with D.
Yeah, that has to be true in all of our worlds. So it must be true. 100% has to happen. So in all of our worlds, G has to be rule. All the other answer choices, while they could happen, I don't know if any of them can't happen. While most of these can happen, we're looking for something stronger, something that has to be true. So can be doesn't cut it. Has to be a must, which is correct.
And again, if I didn't have these worlds, I would have went through every option of what could and couldn't. So I need to just get efficient in creating worlds and diagrams.
Yeah. World building, students like shy away from it because at the beginning it can take you a long time to build that confidence and to get your diagrams down. But once you get it down and you like master that, which typically takes the same amount of time as it would to master any other method, your questions become so easy. It took you like 10, 15 seconds to come up with this answer choice. And you have what once you get to the point where you are confident in your diagrams, you are like to the point where you're 110% correct. This is the one. To the point where I could pick that answer choice and move on, not have to worry about any of the other ones. That makes me
Yes,
a little
waiting for the
scared.
day. Yeah,
I'm not a risk taker, but you could totally do that.
yeah. I'm waiting for the day where I can.
I think I did it once or twice on my test, and it freaked me out because I was like, I'm not one to take risks. And so if
Mhm.
my answer choice is A, that scares me. Or if it's E, that scares me. So like I go through all of them because it takes you 5 seconds to go through all of them. But technically you could just pick it and move on. And for myself, I was like, okay, that's 99% going to be my answer choice. But that
Mhm.
1%, I just get really scared
Yeah,
about.
like you said, that confidence part, I guess it just comes with time.
Yes, and even, like, I've been doing games for 2 years, teaching them for at least a year. I'm still not to the point where I, I have confidence in my diagrams, but it's just scary to pick an answer and
Yeah,
move on.
I agree. I think I'm gonna have to get. Oh, but you said you're not gonna be teaching anymore in a while. Well, I need to find somebody that can help me with some diagrams because.
And we can talk because I got
Okay,
referrals.
yeah. Oh,
I'll
okay,
get you
great.
on that, but question number 5. I think this will be our last one.
Okay. Okay, so I'm stuck between A and E.
Okay, I'd mark on it. Or actually, I'll do this. We like A, we like E. Okay. So we're looking for any of the following could be true, or sorry, could be featured on the 4th issue except. So another except question. Remind yourself the correct answer is the one that's not going to happen. So if my answer choice can happen, it's wrong. And like repeat that to yourself every time you go into an answer choice because it'll always recalibrate what you're thinking. So for answer choice A, can I have F with a rule theme in that 4th issue?
Oh,
Did it
I
clarify it
guess
for you?
yeah, because I was looking where F is for, but I wasn't looking for where it's rule.
Well, either way, I can't even have F in my fourth spot, actually.
Yeah.
So there's no way that I could put F in that fourth spot with a rule theme, which is going to make it wrong. Or sorry, that's going to make it our correct answer. It's wrong, and that's
I got
why
it.
it's
Okay.
the answer.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
Because
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
it can't happen. But if we look at E, K has an urban theme in that fourth issue. Totally
Second world.
possible we can make that happen in that second world because U and R flip flop. So we could force U to be in that fourth spot if we wanted it to. So because it
Got it.
can happen, it's wrong because we're looking for the exception.
And that's what I was telling myself. I'm like, it can happen in E and it can't in A. So I think that's why I was confusing myself. Like, I know it can happen here, but it can't happen here. It's like, start, come on.
Yes, you were on the right track. It's these accepts, or I call them like the negative questions, the things that can't happen. So the accepts, the must be false, the cannot be true, those tend to be harder because you're looking at something that can't happen. So the way that I look at it and the way that I try to teach students to look at it is flip it around on the positive end. It's much easier to see what can happen. And if we can see what can happen, we can eliminate the can happens and it'll just produce the one that cannot happen. It's a lot easier on your mind to think about it that way.
Agreed. Agreed. Because that just made sense.
Yes.
And then
So,
I think that applies to life. You can't keep
yes,
thinking about what can't happen. Just think about what can. And I'm going to think
yes.
about it like that.
Be positive about it. That helps you a lot in all aspects of life, especially the LSAT. It'll help you with these negative questions.
Got it.
All right. And number 6 is a substitute question. I'm not going to go over it because the substitute questions tend to be the hardest. And if we're not going 21 correct on all the sections not every time, but consistently 20 and up on your sections, do not waste your time on this. Pick an answer choice and move on. Because what happens is people who are struggling to get 20 correct on the section, they're struggling with the lower hanging fruit. So like our must be true and our could be trues. Those are going to give you more points than looking at these substitute questions because the could be trues, the must be trues, the concepts behind that's happening more in your section. That's like 10, 15 points of your section. Whereas your substitute question is worth 1 point. And most students will spend 5 minutes, if not more, end up getting it wrong anyways. If they do get it correct, it's worth 1 point. And it's not worth your time. So for substitute questions, I always say you save them till the end. Even when I do a time section, I'm saving it till the end because my time is better spent on diagramming the next game or answering the questions for the next game or whatever. And if I have time to spare at the end of my section, then I will certainly go back and do these substitute ones. But max that you're going to see on a section is 2. There's never been more than 2 substitute questions. So even if you do miss them, you're getting a 21 out of 23 correct, which is still enough to get a 170 and up.
Okay.
So they're really not worth your time, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you
Got
have any
it.
questions on that?
No, I think this one was good.
Okay. If you come to the point where you are getting 20 and up on substitute questions, we can certainly talk about how to attack them. And I have like a whole guide for how to attack them in a method. But I would be safe in saying that if we went over that today, your brain would be mush. And I don't
Yeah,
want
I appreciate that. Yeah,
so we're just not going to go over that today.
sounds good.
Do you have any questions about the game or logic games in general?
No, I'm just really gonna just keep practicing the whole creating worlds and diagramming. And just I think just taking my time with reading the question so I fully understand what it's being asked.
Yes, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take practice. So be patient with it. You seem like you're patient with it. So continue to be patient with it. Let's stop recording this.